Right. Done. So yesterday we have seen one example on what select options and what ALV integration. Let's see one more simple example today. A very simple example. Again, what ALV reporting. Okay. So the requirement is like this. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, I should have two views. Okay. View one and what? One second, please. I should have two views. One is view one, and another is what? View two. Okay. In view one, I should what have sales document and one button. In view two, okay, I should take two view containers. Okay. In view two, I should take two view containers. In the first view container, I have to embed internal view, means the view which is coming from the same Webdynpro component. In the view container 2, I have to display what? I have to integrate what? External view. For what? ALV purpose. What is that external view? I have to embed table. Yesterday we have seen that. This will come from which component? SALV underscore WD underscore table. Okay, so this is the overall requirement. We should have two views, view 1 and view 2. View 2, I have to make it as what? Default view. View 2, I have to make it as default view. Okay, so let's see how to do it. So first let us develop this view 1. Okay, I'll develop this view 1 which should contain. So the overall focus is how to develop the ALV report here. Okay, so I'll develop the view 1 which contains so and so. So I'll go to Object Navigator SCAT. Right. So in view 1, I have to develop this input field and one button. Okay. So let me go to Object Navigator. I'll create the Webdynpro component. Let me give 18. 18 is already over. So I'll go for 19. It is done. So I'll go for 19. Done. Window name, let me give it as underscore window. View name, I'll give it as input underscore sales. Any name. Okay, so I'm going to create two views. One view name is input underscore sales, another view name is what? Display. Okay, so I'll give the view name as input underscore sales. This is my first view. Right. So let us focus on only this first view. What I require here, before we design the layout, we have to visualize the layout so that we'll get an idea what context you have to create. So what is the layout I require? One input field, one button. So for the input field, I require only what? Attribute. Okay. So what kind of attribute? Referring to what? Sales document. So in the view one, that's but input underscore sales. First, I'll create the attribute. I'll go to context. Under this root context, create what? Attribute. I'll give the attribute name as something sdoc. Type what? Weblen underscore v. I'm creating an individual attribute. Done. Once the context is ready, I'll design the layout. Right click on the root element container, insert element. I'll give it as something IP1. Okay, what is the type you want? Input field. For the input field we need to set what? Value property. I'll bind the value property, bind with the attribute. What is the attribute here? Stock. Done. And for this input field, let me take a label. I click on this lb1 type. I'll take it as label. For the label, I'll give the label for what? IP1. Text, I'll give it as something sales document number. Done. Then let me take one button. Let me interchange the positions. I'll take a button here. Right click on this, insert element B1. Type is what? Button. And for the button, let me give the text. Get sales items. Then here I'll give the on action event for the button. Get underscore sales underscore what? Items. I'll give the description. Get sales what? Items. Get sales items. Let me save it. Done. Okay, it has been saved. Right. So I have the label and this is the input field and this is the button. Let me save it. Done, done, done. Okay. Next. Okay. But this should not be the default view. Okay. I want to take one more view. This view should be made what? Default. Okay. So what this view has to show me, it should contain two view containers. This first view container should embed what? Internal view. Second view container should embed what? External view for displaying the data in what? ALV format. Understood? So here in this second view container, I have to embed the external view because I want what? ALV format. Okay, I want to display the sales item. So here after entering the sales document, when I click on the button, I have to get the sales items and display that sales items in the form of what? ALV grid. So since you want ALV grid, I have to make use of this particular component, right? So now see the approach here. So I require one more view. Before that, what is the data we are going to display in the ALV grid? Sales items. So I require a node now. I require a node. And already yesterday we have seen whatever the final data that we are going to display in ALV, that particular node should be available at what level? Component controller, so that we can do what? External context mapping. I have to map it with what? Data node of what? Standard component. Na? That's the reason the final data which you are going to display in the ALV grid should be available at what? Component controller level, so that I can do the external context mapping. Understood? See here, suppose I'll create one more view. Right click on this, create. I'll give the view name as something what? Display. Right? So this is a view. Okay, view got created. If I directly create the context here, because this is the view which is displaying the data in LU format. If I directly create the context here, I cannot do what? External context mapping. That's the reason what I'll do. Whatever the final data that you want to display in LV format, that final data I require a node now. What node? WebApp node. So I'll go to what? Component controller. I'll create one node. Create what? Node. I'll give the node name as what? VBAP underscore node. Dictionary structure. What is that? ZC VBAP. Cardinality, I'll choose what? 0 to N. I'll add the attributes on the structure. Let me select all these four fields. Done. So a global node is available at component controller level. Done. Okay. Now, yeah. In the second view, what you have to display? I have to display two views in the second view. One is internal view, another is what? External view. So first of all, I'll do the internal context mapping. So I'll go to what? Context. What is the node I require? VBAP node. Okay, so let me just do the internal context mapping first. Internal context mapping is done. Oh. Do I require the node here in the view too? No, na. let me delete this. Right click on this. I'll delete the mapping. I'll delete the node also. I've deleted. Okay. I don't require this because where we are going to get the items in the first view only na, there only I require what VBAP node. So what I'll do, I'll go to my first view only. In the first view I'll do the internal context mapping. So it is available at component level. I'll do it here. Done. Okay. Now let me come back to view 2. In the view 2 I don't have any context, remember. Directly I'll design the layout. I'll take two view containers. One is vcont1. What is the type? View container UI element. Right click on this, insert element, vcont2. I'll take view content. So two view container UI elements I have taken. Done. Okay. Now let me plug both the views to what? Window. So I'll plug both the views to window. Anyhow first view is plugged. Let me plug what? Second view also. Done. It is plugged. Which view you have to make it as a default view? The second view. So what I have to do already we know. Here for the display view, which I have to make it as default. What is this? You have to select this. I am unable to select here. Why? Or else I cannot directly select it. You have to right click and what? Select. Right click on this and say what? Set as what? Default. So now it will be selected automatically. Done. So I made the second view as a default. Now if you see this display, it has got two view containers, vcont1 and vcont2. In view container 1, what you have to embed? Yes, internal view. Let me embed now. Right click on the view container, embed view, view to be embedded, which is available in the same thing. What is that view name? Input underscore cells. I am embedding the internal view which belongs to the same component. So done. Then in the view container 2, I have to display the data in LV format. Na? So for that I require this one. Na? So I cannot embed now because I have not included that component. Right click on this, embed view. It will show only the views of the current component. But I require the views of what? Standard component. So what you have to do for this? Yes, go to what? Component level. Go to component level. Include that particular external standard component. So double click on the component level. I double clicked on the component level. What happened? I'll try to relog in. I'll go to SM12. I'll try to unlock it. I'll leave the locks on that. Let me try to reopen. 19. So if you go to window level, we have two views, right? In the view, okay, let me do it first. So right click on what? It is in display mode. Right click on view container one. What is this? Embed view. View to be embedded is what? Internal view. Okay, done. Let me save it once. Yes, it is saved. Then go to what? Component level. Now in the component level, you have to include that standard component. What is that? SLV underscore W table. You have to give some component usage name. The moment you create the component usage, one node gets created here. So when I give some name ALV, so here when I save it, the component usage got created. Understood? Component usage got created. Done. Now if you go back to the window level, in the window level, in the view container 2, what you have to do? You have to embed what? External view. What is that view which is responsible for showing the data in ALU format? Table. Window, it's basically a window. So what you have to do here? Right click on view container, embed view, view to be embedded. Let me browse now. Yes, now you can see it is showing me the what? Windows of what? Included component also. What you have to embed here? Always what? Table only. Always table. Done. Continue. Right? It is embedded. Okay. Then what you have to do? Hmm? What you have to do? We have to map that final node. Na? So already we declared that final node at what? Component level. Now go to what? Component usages. What? Under what? Interface controller. We have to map our final node with what? Data node. Then only SAP knows what data should be shown in what? ALV format. So when I click on this here, right, this only component controller. Done. So understood. Map. Now how do you map your final node VBAP node onto what? Data node. Onto data node. So if you see now below, it is mapped. You can observe here. Okay, for the mapping path is what? Dot VBAP node. So it has been, now SAP knows what data should be displayed in what? ALV format. Now as usual, let us create the application. So two things. What is the first thing you have to do? Include the standard component at what level first? Component level, and embed that particular external window. What was that? Table. Then whatever the final data you want to display, that you have to map it to the data node of what? Interface controller. What do you mean by interface controller? The controller related to the included component. The controller related to the included component. Now let me create the application. I'll give underscore app. I'll give the description as app19. Let me save it. Right, it is saved. I'll save it in the local object. Let me activate the whole component. I click on the component and say activate. So we made the second view as what? Default view, and that second view contains what? Two view containers. The first view container is holding the internal view. Second view container is holding the external view, which is coming from the included component SALV underscore WD underscore table. Then it is activated. Let me execute now. Right click on this, set test. Yeah, so you can see here we don't have that feeling now. This is actually what? One view. This is another view. Both of them are embedded in what? Single view. So now here the understanding is I am embedding one internal view and one external view. We are not directly showing this view. We are embedding this onto what? This one. Now rest of the part is very simple. What is that? If I enter the sales document number, when I click on this, I should get the data and bind it. So that part is very simple. So where is that button available? In the first view only now. So go to the first view, input underscore sales. There only the button is designed. Okay. In the on action event, simple. So what is the technique? we have to read the sales document entered. Na? What is the sales document binded attribute? A stock. So let me declare that. Read the sales document entered data LV underscore sales document type what? Already we know all these things. W underscore this of what? Element underscore context hyphen what? This doc. Understood? On behalf of your individual context attribute, it creates this attribute in the types declaration. What is the type declaration? Element underscore what? Context. You can check it here in the local what? This object in the local view interface under what? Element underscore context. What is the field name? A stock. I am referring to that. Make clear? Done. Then get the data. It is under what? Under root now. So get attribute by using what? WD context. I'll go to pattern, ABAP objects pattern, WD underscore context. If WD context node, get underscore what? Attribute. Get underscore attribute. Yeah. Name of the attribute is what? sdoc importing value equal to lv underscore sdoc. Done. Okay, then if lv underscore sdoc is not initial, do so and so. Else, what you do? Flash what? Message to enter what? Set that anyhow we know. Okay, you can try it. Flash message to enter sales document. Okay, if lv underscore sdoc is not initial, what I have to do is get the what? Sales items. I require internal table now. So already the context is mapped from component level to what? View level. So an internal table will be available now. Let me declare the internal table. So data t underscore vbap type what? W underscore this of what? Elements underscore vbap underscore node. Write the select query. VBLN, PYSNR, material number, NETWR from what? VBAP into table. What is the internal table? T underscore VBAP where Weblen equal to what? LV underscore stock. Okay, if size sub RC is equal to what? 0. Okay, you tried the logic. Else what? Flash message to indicate what? No sales items. Understood? Size of R is equal to 0. I have to bind this internal table with this node only. Na? Why to this node? This is a node which is mapped to the data node of ALV. Na? Understood? This is a node which is mapped to the data node. So I need to supply the data to that node. So I have to get the reference of the node. If size of R is equal to 0, what? Get reference of the node what? VBAP underscore node data context underscore VBAP node type ref2. What is the interface? If underscore W underscore context node. I'll go to pattern WD context get what? Get child node. What is the name? Yes, WD underscore this of what? WD context underscore VBAP underscore node. Receiving what is the reference? Context underscore VBAP underscore node. Then as usual, if context underscore VBAP underscore node is what? Bound. What I have to do if it is bound? Bind what? Sales items. So context underscore VBAP node of what? Bind underscore table T underscore what? That's it. Simple logic. Right? So save it, check it, activate this. Let me execute the application. Right, sales document number. I will not enter anything. Actually, I have to give a message. Okay, so 4980. I'll click on the button. I got the sales items 4987. I got the data. Am I clear? So I got the data in what? ALV format. So the main thing is, acha, in this example you can see, did I included that SALV underscore WD table at a view level? No, na. I'm not including this at what? View level. Just I'm including only at what? Component level, so that I can do the embedding of what? External view. Okay, and also I can do the external context mapping. Understood? So when we have to include at view level means, if you are doing the interaction displayed now. Now if I'm doing any interaction, I should get the reference of this. So at that time, we require those methods. What are they? WDCPIFC, WDCPUs. So I have to declare them at the what? As part of what? Your view level. As of now, I'm not doing, because I'm not doing any interaction. Just it's a static display of the data. I'm not doing any interaction in the ALV grid. So later on, when we see that ALV interactive reporting, we'll see how to include that at what? So answer level. Clear? Any questions online? Okay. So if you see here,
Sir, can you summarize the yesterday's example and this example with reference to explanations? So, like showing the pictures, images.
okay. This one, na?
There is some confusion, like they're embedding at one level, another not. Actually,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. So let me open the yesterday's one. Yeah. Right. So what was the yesterday's requirement? We require basically two views. One is, in the first view, I need to read the range of what? Sales document, and based on that range, when I click on the button, in the target view, I should display the data in what? ALV format. So forget about second view. Let us focus only on what? View one. So what is that I want in the view one? I require one interface, I require a view which should read the range of what? Values. So whenever you are dealing, if it is a single value, if you want to read, directly I can take input field. Okay. Whenever you want to read what? Range of values as input from the user in Webdynpro, what the developer has to do, he has to make use of the standard component called as what? WDR underscore select underscore options. So first, initially what I have to do, I have to create the view one, and as part of that component, as part of our component, we have to include the standard component. What is the standard component I included yesterday at component level? First, WDR underscore select underscore options with what usage name? SCL. So why we have to include this component is, as part of your view, I have to show the interface like this. Okay, I should show the screen like this, view like this. So I should take what? View container. Okay, on this view container, we have to embed one of the window of this particular standard component. So what is that I embedded? If you go to the yesterday's one, in the view one, if you see, I took in the view one, I took only what? View container and one push button. So on this view container, what you have to do, you have to embed the external view. So what I did, as after including that component at component level, I went to our windows. I plugged our view to the window. Now in the view we have what? View container. We have embedded what window? WND underscore selection underscore screen. WND underscore selection underscore screen. Okay, this is the window which belongs to what? Standard component. What is that standard component? WDR underscore select underscore option. So why we have to embed this? Because this is the one which will show the interface in what? Select option format. That is the reason you have to embed always this one, WD underscore selection underscore screen. So if I leave it like this, what happens? You'll get the, when I run our application, you'll get it, you'll in your view, by default you'll get some four buttons. You'll get only what? Four buttons. Okay, some cancel, execute kind of thing. But what is our requirement? We don't want the buttons. I want some range, like to enter the lower limit and what? Upper limit. But SAP cannot predict what values you have to enter, what values the developer wants to enter. It can be any value: employee number, vendor, purchase order, sales order. So dynamically we have to construct what? Select option field. Dynamically you have to construct the select option field. So how do we construct? What is the first method called whenever the view is loaded? WD do init. So in the v1, okay, in the WD do init method, what I did, okay, I got the refer, okay, I require these two methods, CPUs and what? CPFC. Initially what I did, I included that component only at what level? Component level. With this inclusion at component level, what you can do at the max? I can only embed what? External window. I can only embed the external window. Okay, but if you want those two methods, CPUs and CPIFC, what you have to do? We have to include that standard component as part of what? In whichever view you want to show the select option, in that view we have to include that particular standard component. So there are two entries related to the standard component. There are the two entries. Whenever we include these two entries, SAP will generate some two corresponding methods as part of what? Local view interface. What are the methods? WD underscore CPUs underscore component usage, and then WD underscore CPI underscore component usage. So if you go here, because of that inclusion, it has created these two methods: WD CPUs component usage name, and there is what? WD CPI underscore component usage name. Okay, so initially what you have to do? Okay, our agenda is what? To construct the select option field dynamically. Okay, where you have to construct? On the select option screen. What is that screen we have embedded here? Yes, in the window level, what is that external window we embedded? WND underscore what? Selection underscore screen. You have to get the reference of this. How do you get the reference? First step is you have to call the generated method. What is the generated method? CP use. I call this. I'm going with the signature. This method returns the reference of which interface? Component usage. I got the reference. Done. Then forget about these steps. Leave it. Then we have to get the reference of what? Interface controller. For that I have to call the second method. When I am trying to call this, when I leave it like this, when I execute my application, I got a runtime error saying that used component is not active. I got the runtime error, used component is not active. So what you have to do? We need to check whether it is active or not. If it is not active, we have to activate it. For that, what are the steps you have to follow? I got the reference of that component usage. Using that, I have to call an instance method what? As active component, which returns a boolean value. If it is active, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns what? False. Always it returns false only. Okay. So if it is false, means what? It is not active. How do we activate it? In the same what? In the same interface, we have a method what? Create component, which will do what? Activation. So this is common for any kind of standard component you include at view level. These three steps are common. First you have to call what? CPUs. Then check active or not. If not active, you activate it. Then you have to get the reference of what? Interface controller. For ALV also, these three steps are what? Common. As of now, I am not doing the interaction with what? ALV reporting. That's why I am not implementing that steps. But tomorrow onwards, when I interact with this, when I try to do interactive reporting, I require the same common steps. Okay, done. So once we got the reference of interface controller, what you have to do, using that interface controller, you have to initialize the selection screen. How do we initialize? You have to call the method what? Init selection screen, which returns the object of a interface. I declare this as what? View attribute, so that I can use it in multiple methods. Okay, so now if it is not, if it is bound, okay, a select option is nothing but a internal table na? Right? So in our normal ABAP, what you will do, in your normal ABAP you will say select options so underscore what, weblen for what, weblen underscore what, va, we'll say like this. So what happens because of this declaration, internally SAP will create a internal table na? This is header and this is a body of the select option, which has got how many fields? Four fields: sign, option, and what? Low I. Sign, option, low, and I. So something like this here also. Sign, option, low I. Sign, option, what is this? Low, and then what? I. Okay, you'll have the default values here for sign, that is inclusive. Default for option, you got between. What I can enter here, lower limit, sales document only na, because we are referring to a data element na. So whatever the data type and size is there for this data element, that will be assigned to our lower limit and what, upper limit na. Similarly here also, here we are constructing it dynamically na. So we have to create this internal table. In case of a normal ABAP, the moment this statement is executed, SAP will create what? Internal table with this structure. But in our case, we have to specify the data element so that it will create what? Range table. So what I did here, in that interface, I am having a method what? Create range table. Here also I am passing what? Data element. It will create what? Dynamically created what? Range table, which is of type ref to what? Data. What is the structure of this? Sign, option, low, and what? I. Sign, option, low, and I. Done. So it will create that. But select option should have some field name na? What is the field name here? What is the field name here? So underscore weblen. In our case also, we should have the name for the select option na? Here this is only the data element, here only the type, to get the data type and size. So to associate the field name, what is the method I called? Add selection field. So this is the field which is associated with this particular dynamic select option internal table, and I don't want to allow multiple ranges. So I said what? No extension as what? True. If you don't give this, user can enter what? Multiple ranges on the screen. Okay, so this logic will only construct what? Select option, and will initialize that particular select option range. Okay, so it will display that particular what? Select option lower limit and higher limit, upper limit for the user. Now user will enter the data. He has to click on the button. When you click on the button, I have to write the select statement to get the sales order based on this range. So in our normal ABAP, what you will do, you will write what? Select so and so, where what? Weblen in what? So underscore what? Weblen. So here also I have to read the range entered by the user na? So how do you read the range entered by the user? In that on action event of the button, okay, how to read the range of the selection field? Get range table, I'll get that particular range. Earlier in the init method, this was empty, nothing was there, it was empty. Now once a view is shown to the user, user will enter some data na? So that data will be what? Suppose if I enter 4980 and what? 4985, it is appended to the body area. So this is 4980 and this is what? 4985. How to read it na? How do you read it? We have to call a method what? Get range table. Then only the data will be populated here. Then based on this, I need to write the select statement. Directly I cannot compare with this, even though this is a select option internal table. It is a dynamically created what? Internal table. So if I directly use what? Select so and so in what? WT this T underscore range, you are getting what? Syntax error, not type compatible, because this is what here? Webdone is what? Character of 10. If I say directly in T underscore range, T underscore range is what type? Type ref to what? Data. So type compatible issue, na? Type compatible issue you will get. That's the reason what you are doing. We are assigning that data star in refers to what? Data to what? A field symbol, so that I can compare this. If I directly compare like this here, it will give an error, not type count, because this is what type? Character. This is what type? Type ref to data, not type comp. That's why we have to assign the data of this internal table. How to refer to data? Star to field symbol. It should not be a normal field symbol. It should be what? Field symbol internal table. Type what? If I say only like this field symbol fs, you will get an error, because this is having what? Internal table data. This is only a single field. That's the reason I have to say type any table. If I say type any also, you may get error. Type any refers to what? Work area. But this is what? Internal table. That's why I have to say type any table. So once the data is assigned to the field symbol internal table, I am writing the select query. Then, yeah, this data I have to show it in what? ALV format. This data I have to show it in what? ALV format in the second view. So how do you show it in ALV format? What is the technique? First of all, you have to take a view container. On that view container, you have to embed what? External window. What is that external window? Table. Okay, always table is a window which will show the data in what? ALV format. Wherever you have the ALV requirement, the only window we have to embed is what? Table window. Okay, of the standard component. So I have embedded. Done. But SAP doesn't know what data you have to show it in that window. No? So for that, what you have to do? Your final node. What is your final node? T underscore VBAK mapped with what? VBAK node. This is the node we are binding now. Here, this internal table, where is that? Yeah, this internal table we are binding with what node? Yes, VBAK node. Okay, so this is the data which has to be displayed in what? ALU format. So this is the final node data now. So this has to be mapped to what? What? Data node. Where under what? Component usage. So that SAP knows that whatever the node mapped to this data, that has to be shown in what? ALV format. Where it will show it in ALV format? Wherever the table window is there. Where the table window is embedded? In this particular. So what is that? You have to include that SALVW table at component level. Then I can embed the external window. Then what you have to do? Map in the what component usages. Map your final node what with what? Data node, so that SAP knows what data should be shown in what ALV format. As of now, we are displaying only static ALV reporting. We're displaying only a static ALV. We are not doing any interaction. When I do the interaction, again I have to get the reference of this. I have to identify the selected row, all those things. So since I am doing the interaction with this object, okay, this has to be included at what? View level. So that standard component should be included at what level? View level. Two methods gets what? Generated. Again, the 3-4 steps are common. So anyhow, that part I will start doing it from tomorrow onwards. How to do interaction with what? ALV reporting. So what I'll do is I'll do the interactive reporting, like something like this. Here I'll display what? Customer data in ALU format. Whenever I click on the, okay, that customer number, I have to show it as a hotspot. Here you can see I'm getting the what? And symbol. Na? So when I click on this, there is some event triggered. So I need to identify that customer number. Then I have to display the sales orders of that customer in the next ALV grid. Okay, and in this ALV grid, all these sales orders, I'll show it in the form of buttons. In our ALV also will show it in buttons now. So here also I have to show it in buttons. When I click on this, again some other event is triggered. I have to identify that. I have to display what? Sales items. When I'm displaying the sales item, I want to color the rows depending on the net value. Some red color, black, something. something like this. So all these features will implement in what? ALV interactive reporting. Okay, so that you'll become strong in what? ALV reporting also. So in this case, what you are doing, wantedly, what I did, I wantedly, why I went for this example is, in a view, I took two view containers. In first view container, I embedded what? Internal view. In the second view container, I embedded what? External view. Why I embedded external view here? Because this data I want to show it in what format? ALV format. That's the reason I went. Okay. So here at the end, the user is seeing only one view, but at the background, this is nothing but one view. This is a view coming from where? ALV, standard report, standard component. Any further questions? Clear? So I'll stop for today. Practice this. Tomorrow we'll see this one. So that all the features related to ALV will be what? Covered. Suppose here. Yeah. If you observe this, we have seen what? Select option implementation, and in ALV we have seen how to integrate what? ALV with what? Webdynpro. Now there are many things I can do. What is this? Row coloring, column coloring, ALV column is what? Hyperlink. ALV column is what? Button. And how to add our own buttons. How to handle events in what? ALV. So far we are handling the events for our UI elements now. For button we have handled what? On action. For input field, what is that? On enter. For table, what is that? On lead select. For roadmap, on select. Okay. Now we are going to handle the events in what? ALV. And we can edit the ALV cell values what? Dynamically. And here interactive reporting also I'll cover here. Then I can generate what? In our classical reporting we have what? Top of page and what? End of page events. Here also we have those events. Okay, so all these features we'll cover it in the next 2-3 days. Done. Message management, window management is common for anything. Okay, so once we are done with this ALV, we have to see the other parts, like we have to see how to provide what? Custom FRL, how to design the context and layout dynamically, and how to work with what? Different types of layout. What is the default layout? Flow layout. What is the concept? Left to right, top to bottom. So like this, we have different layouts which will have different kind of appearance. Matrix layout means we have to divide that view into what? In the form of rows and columns. Yeah, left to right. It will start from left. It will go up to this end. Once this line is filled, it will come to next line. Left to right, top to bottom. That is flow layout. Okay, here you can observe that. If you take, yeah, here in the any of the views, if you take, okay, if you go to this root element container, what is the default layout here? Flow layout, one after the other. Like this, we have different types of what? Layouts. Generally, we will not use all of them. We'll use flow layout, grid layout, matrix layout, form layout. Okay, almost everything is what? Same. You can check the documentation and you can work with that. Done. So I'll stop now. Tomorrow we'll see interactive reporting, but practice is the early part. Okay, if you understand the basics only, we can go ahead and do the rest of the things. Okay.
First, can you highlight the 7 points, sir? The points for this real
So,
complete notes. So,
acha, in the notes we don't have that part. Huh?
should I also? Because while practicing, sometimes getting confusion where we need to embed that by
Correct.
component level or
Okay, okay. One
just
second.
5-6 points. So that will always help that.
Okay, I think I have not updated the notes. I'll update it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Today I'll do it.
Okay, no, sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fine. Shall then, shall wind off. We'll continue tomorrow then.